Captain Peter Cutsey with the Boeing 737 normal procedures. Engine start. We will run through a brief description in this video, and in the following video, we'll go into the airplane and complete the engine start. Secondary engine indications, select. First officer. Air conditioning packs off. First officer. Start sequence announced. Captain. Engine start switch ground. First officer. Observing the valve open. A verbal call, valve open. First officer. Verify that the N2 RPM increases. Captain, first officer. At 25%. N2, if 25% is not possible, at max motoring and a minimum of 20% N2. Engine start lever, idle dead. Captain. Fuel flow and EGT, monitor. Captain and first officer. At 56% N2, engine start switch off. First officer. If switch doesn't move to off, then select off. First officer. Start valve open light. When extinguished, the first officer will call starter cutout. N1, N2, EGT and fuel flow monitor. Captain and first officer. Repeat the start sequence for the remaining engine. Normal starter duty cycle. Multiple consecutive start attempts are permitted. Each start attempt is limited to 2 minutes of starter usage. A minimum of 10 seconds is needed between start attempts. If you're using the extended engine motorings, starter usage is limited to 15 minutes for the first 2 extended engine motorings. For the third and subsequent extended engine motorings, starter usage is limited to 5 minutes. A minimum of 10 minutes is needed between each attempt. Now, some normal engine start considerations. Do not move an engine start lever to idle dead early, or a hot start can occur. Keep a hand on the engine start lever while motoring RPM, EGT, and fuel flow until stable. If fuel is shut off accidentally by closing the engine start lever, do not reopen the engine start lever in an attempt to restart the engine. Failure of the engine start switch to stay in ground until engine starter cutout RPM can cause a hot start. Do not re-engage the engine start switch until the engine RPM is below 20% N2. If a fuel leak other than a continuous stream from any of the engine drains is discovered during the exterior inspection, the engine can be started. If during engine start, the ground crew report a fuel leak from an engine drain, the engine start may be continued. If the fuel leak continues after the engine is stable at idle, do one of the following. Shut down the engine for maintenance action, or run the engine at idle thrust for up to 5 minutes. If the fuel leak stops during this time, no maintenance action is required, or shut down and restart the engine. Run the engine at idle thrust for up to 5 minutes. If the fluid leak stops during this time, no maintenance action is required. For the first flight of the day at elevations at or above 2,000 feet MSL, if the temperature is below 5 degrees Celsius, consider placing the engine select switch to both before starting the engines. This may increase the likelihood of a successful start on the first attempt. Do the aborted engine start checklist for one or more of the following abort start conditions. The N1 or N2 does not increase or increases very slowly after the EGT increases. Your guide there is you must have an indication of at least 1% N2 within 5 seconds. There is no oil pressure by the time the engine is stable at idle. The EGT does not increase by 15 seconds after the engine start lever has been moved to the idle detent. The EGT quickly nears or exceeds the start limit. This ends the engine start procedure. See you in the next video for the before taxi procedure. Thank you for watching.